Okay, guys, if you're looking for another disappointing remake, this is the film for you. Poltergeist 2015, 31% on the tomato meter and 22% on that audience score. It has 37,000 plus audience reviews. Not a whole lot, but enough to prove that it's rotten, and I agree it deserves that 22%. It is certainly rotten, and it was also very disappointing to me because I really enjoyed the first movie when it came out. I saw it in the theater when it came out. And let's take a look at that 1982 film and notice a few things about it that are different from the 2015 film. Right away, you'll see the scores, of course. 85% certified fresh on the tomato meter, 79% on the audience score with a hell of a lot more audience reviews, 182,000 audience reviews. Now, the biggest thing here, the biggest difference, if we scroll down, you'll notice that this one's only PG. This is a PG film from 1982, whereas the remake, the one I'm going to be discussing, is actually PG-13. This is horror, just like the remake is listed as horror on the genre. Yet this one has, the older one, the original 1982, has 114-minute running time. The newer one, the really shitty remake, 2015, has a 93-minute running time. Now, the reason I bring that up is because the PG one with the longer running time from 1982 was a lot scarier. It was a lot more effective, a lot more emotional. It hit all the right notes in all the right places, and it had actors and actresses that weren't they weren't crazy, big, gigantic box office stars, yet they were recognizable. Craig T. Nelson, this was his most prominent role. When I saw this in 1982, Craig T. Nelson became, to me, the dad in Poltergeist. And, he went on to a lot of other stuff out of that, but he was definitely, Poltergeist made him a big household name back in the day. Now, in the remake, the rotten remake, we have Sam Rockwell reprising that role. And I know Sam Rockwell from a whole lot of movies out there, some good and some bad. And he's good in a lot of things, but his performance in this was total shit. In my opinion, at least, it was totally shit. And I'll say that he's a very unlikable character in this. In the original film, Craig T. Nelson's father comes across as a good father. He's likable. He's certainly not the villain of the story, and he cares about his family very much, maybe too much. In the remake, this rotten remake, Sam Rockwell, he's an unemployed dad between jobs, and it's not that. It's not the fact that he's between jobs that makes him bad, but his attitude, his character is very unlikable. He's not the guy you'd want as your dad. He's not the guy you'd want in this situation, in this movie, either. He's very unlikable. He actually drags the film down. And I'm not saying that as an actor his performance drags the film down, but his character, the way it's written, it just does not work in this film. We needed at least one likable character, preferably the dad in this story, and he comes across completely the opposite. He deserves to actually be gotten rid of in this film, but that's not what happens, of course. This is a remake that attempts to hit all the old notes of the first one, and it has a lot of stuff in it that's callback type stuff to the first one, but none of it works, none of it's scary, and we already know we've seen this stuff before, what it all adds up to, and so it doesn't work on any level at all. This is not scary at all, not suspenseful at all. In fact, it actually crosses into comedy in some parts where I laughed out loud because it was stupid funny. It wasn't scary. It's completely rotten. And I'll say another thing that shocked me. Steven Spielberg has a writer credit on this remake. And we know he's, the writer of the first one. We go back and look at the first one. We have Steven Spielberg, one of 3 writers on that very successful 1982 movie. But when we get to the 2015 film and we look at the writer's credits, he is the first of 2 writers listed. Really? Well, he failed. Instead of trying to do really cheap, ineffective callbacks to his first film, to his first script, he should have done something new, because even if this had been suspenseful, it still wouldn't have worked because we've seen this exact stuff before, done a lot better in a film that was rated more for kids than this is. This actually has the benefit of having a PG-13 rating and yet fucks it up. You would think if you had that PG-13 rating or even an R rating, you could do so much more, but no, actually this film does a whole lot less. Okay, so let's get into the actual audience reviews before I talk myself silly on that. I'm not going to entertain anything, more than a 3-star review because this is Rotten Reviews, and that's the plan, and I'm sticking to it. 2.5 stars, December 20, 2019, making the first on the top about a month old. It would be fine if it weren't for the fact that it takes all of the original's best moments and recreates them almost precisely, which is some poor taste. D+. Yeah, like I said, callbacks that are very specifically taken right out of the first film, and it's not going to work. I don't know how Spielberg thought it would work, or the director even thought it would work, because we've seen this stuff before. So how is it going to scare us the second time, even if you did it effectively, which this film doesn't? Even if you did it in a way that should have been scary, it still wouldn't have been because we knew where it was all going. No suspense. You can't have horror without suspense. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions, and that's what this did. December 5, 2019, 1.5 stars. This movie is super bad. It can't compare to the original one. The special effects are low cost. Yeah, and let's see. Did I put a star rating? I didn't. So if I have to put a star rating on this, I'm going to say 0.5 star because a movie was made and people got paid. And I'm deliberately saying 0.5 star because not only was this completely rotten, it was not scary, it was not suspenseful. Spielberg should have known better. He's the writer on this. He's the big writer attached to this. He was the writer on the first one. How could he fail this hard? He wasn't even trying, apparently. Or his name just got stuck on by some technicality, and maybe he didn't even know what was going on here until the movie was already made. I don't know the story on this, but I just can't excuse it with his name attached to it like that. So I'm going to say 0.5 star and no higher, not even a little bit. And I'll say on my list of problems, not only is the dad unlikable, but the mom is boring, and she's written to be boring. There's at no point in this movie where I was sympathetic to her or caring about her, worried about her children, or any of that stuff like we had in the first film. It didn't even feel like a family. It felt like a fake family going through the motions. And the daughter, the oldest teenage daughter in this, her acting was completely bad. There were a couple of scenes where it felt like she was smiling and grinning and making a joke right after her younger sister was taken away by demons or ghosts, and I'm like, what? Other parts of this, she's acting and with other family members, and it was totally unbelievable and felt like she's just, I don't know if she is a really bad actress, but if I had just seen her in this and nothing else, which is the case for me, I would just say this actress is not a good actress. So it was really bad, and nobody felt real. I mean, it felt like just a fake family. There are jump scares. The first movie didn't rely on jump scares. It really didn't. It established a feeling, a dark feeling, a sinister feeling, and it did a lot of stuff with that. It didn't have jump scares. This one actually turns things that weren't jump scares into jump scares in this film, and they're not scary. I didn't even flinch one time. I didn't see them coming. They're done in a really stupid way, but I just was totally still and calm throughout all the jump scares. They didn't work. Total fail on that one. What else? Ghost cleaners. This kind of takes it a little bit in a different direction, where in the first film we had a group of paranormal researchers from a university, and we had a psychic character, and it worked. We didn't find them unbelievable or off-putting. This film takes that in a new direction and kind of makes them goofballs and incompetent and unlikable. And the psychic researcher, in this case, he's like one of these reality TV stars from a ghost hunters type program called Ghost Cleaners, something along those lines. And he features in this, and he replaces the psychic woman, the female psychic character in the first film. Now he's like this Irish kind of scarred, grizzled ghost cleaner reality TV star, and it's very stupid. And in fact, the film ends with a post credits or mid credit scene of a little shot, a comedy relief shot out of the fictional show Ghost Cleaners that takes place after this film ends. It's a complete fail, and it turns this further into a goofball comedy. Completely stupid. Let's read some more reviews. 1.5 stars, December 5, 2019. This movie is super bad. It can't compare to the original one. The special effects are low cost. Yeah, the effects, they did have some effort into the CGI, showing you they showed you this spirit world on the other side, and that's a big fail on this one. The first film, it didn't show you that. It left it up to your imagination, and all the visual effects took place in our world, and you never saw what it looked like in the spirit world on the other side of the wall. In this one, you just straight up have a magical portal in a closet, and when you go through it, you get to see what the other side looks like, and that's where all the CGI budget mostly went, and it's completely stupid, boring, and it's not even, it doesn't add anything. It's very dark and just forgettable, and it's not scary because the first film achieved all that scariness without you having to go to the other side. But this one did the opposite, took you to the other side, CGI'd it up, made it boring, and took all the tension and suspense out and mystery out of it. Completely stupid. And at one point, one of these completely goofball, incompetent university paranormal research students, completely, he's so incompetent, for example, that he needs to drill a hole through a wall, and he starts to try to drill the hole through the wall, and then realizes that he hasn't actually plugged his drill in. It's an electric drill that you have to plug it into the wall, and he forgot to plug it in. And the film wastes time showing us how incompetent he is, that he can't even figure out that he needs to plug a fucking power drill in before he can use it. And then it shows the same character like putting his wall into the alternate world, and like the demons or ghosts or whatever are going to rip his arm off, but of course they don't, because we're in a PG-13 film, and it doesn't work at all. It's just stupid, and you're wondering, well, you can't show us gore, you can't show us real violence, and you can't give us any effective scare, but you can show us weird stuff, and you can show us how incompetent all these characters are. It doesn't work. You're watching these characters and they're goofballs. You wouldn't want them investigating, you wouldn't want them investigating why your cup of coffee went cold, much less ghosts in your house, and that's how incompetent they are. What else is on my list? Well, yeah, there's a real problem with the plot involving that closet. I forgot to mention that very incompetent researcher that couldn't figure out how to use a power drill. He makes fun of how stupid the movie is and just kind of breaks the fourth wall and tells another character, what, you think there's a magical portal in the closet? He's basically talking to the audience, making fun of how stupid the film is, and you can tell it doesn't work. But in any case, let's just say the closet's a plot hole, because the whole story hinges upon the family moving into this, well-worn house. It's very different than the first film. In the first film, the family's moving into a new house in a new subdivision that's been built on top of ancient burial grounds. In this film, the family's down on their luck, and they're moving into a house that's not an old house, but let's say it's at least 10, 15 years old, and it's well worn, and it looks like it never had a house inspection, and yet somehow they're moving into it with no house inspection, and it's run down inside, and there's a closet up in the kid's bedroom that just the doors won't open. They're just jammed shut from moisture swelling the wood on the doors. And they never once actually open these. They've moved into the house and days have gone by. Everybody's settled in. And the plot hinges on the fact that nobody, the kids or anybody, no adults, the father or whoever, actually ever bothered to get these closet doors opened, which you would need them to be opened for the kids to put their clothes in and everything else. But no, it's completely, in this movie's logic, nobody just happened to need to use that closet. until the plot needed them to so they could go through the magical portal that the researcher actually called a magical portal and made fun of it to the audience. It's completely stupid. Let's read on. Half a star, October 30, 2019. For those who never saw the original Poltergeist, please do yourself a favor and watch it before watching this one. I was very excited when I heard about the remake, but I didn't even make it through this movie. They took one of the most iconic horror films of our time and brutally destroyed it. Yes, some of the visual effects were good, with some okay jump scares, but little to no character development. The key aspects they plucked from the original were rushed. No pool scene or kitchen scene. Yeah, they pulled some stuff out and did it really bad and then just totally skipped over and forgot a lot of good stuff in the first film. And like I said, the first film has a longer running time. It's only PG, but wow, is it more effective and convincing than anything in this piece of crap film. 1 star. One of the worst horror remakes I've ever seen. I agree. 3 stars. Wow, 3 stars. Let's dig into this. You know the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, I think that works well to describe this movie. Overall, the movie's actors are good, but the story and the special effects really don't give you the effect as the original film did when you first saw it. If, like me, you wanted to see what it's like, then yeah, it's worth a watch, but I think that's the best thing I can say about it. Wow, you're way too kind. I completely disagree. The actors are complete crap in this. It's either their acting performance or it's the script they're working with. Both of those are true. They both suck. The special effects don't help anything in this film. It's basically wasted money, in my opinion. It's not worth watching, especially if you've seen the first one. If you've seen the first one, you won't even make it through this one. If you want to waste your time watching this, you're going to be really surprised if you actually go back and watch the second one, or you watch the earlier one second, because you're going to wonder, wow, how did Spielberg get his name on this rotten thing that's a remake? It's amazing. What else is on my list? Well, let's just say, the TV scene in the first one that features a TV from, a new TV from 1982, capable of producing a snowy, staticky picture when it's not plugged into a signal or getting one from an antenna. Those TVs don't exist anymore. So in this film, you've got your big flat screen, flat panel TV, and they kind of try to put an image like that on it. It doesn't work because it's not believable. Like, TVs don't get images like them when they don't get a signal nowadays. They just show you a black screen or a blue screen. Usually it's just black. The newest TVs, when you don't plug them into any kind of source and they're not getting a signal, it's just black. You're not seeing anything. And yet in this film, it's got all this staticky stuff going on where the ghosts can kind of show up in the static and whatnot. And they're trying to do a callback to the first one, but it totally fails because it's not even believable on the TV just doesn't look right, and the way they do it's not scary. It almost looks like a really bad, a more expensive way of doing. What was the film with Michael Keaton? I did a rotten review on it. What is it? The one where it's got ghosts and the noise like that. It's got the TV static and VCRs. White noise. It's almost like white noise, only a more higher budget effect of that, and it's just as dumb as that. The original did it so much better with just a TV that was on late at night, and after all the programming ended, which it did in 1982 over the air, you would just get static or a test pattern, and that's far more effective. In this film, they just fucked it up really good, trying to do their cool callbacks. 2 stars, August 16, 2019. I am not bashing the remake for staying near the original, although that's exactly where the problem lies. This remake should have attempted something new, but yet decided to be totally the same, except with modern technology that did absolutely nothing different for the plot, and it had 1 or 2 jump scares. Yeah, they didn't work. The 2 stars are for the actors who tried their best, even with such a weak script. 2 out of 5. No, they weren't trying that hard. Trust me, I don't give them credit for that. They sucked. But yeah, the modern technology. There's a scene where the older teenage daughter is like, I don't know why she thinks this would work, but she's kind of like following a signal around the house with her iPhone, like she's ghost hunting with her iPhone. It makes no sense on any level what she's doing. The plot just needs her to do this so she can be led to the basement where the concrete in the basement can turn into some kind of black jelly and some kind of skeletal figure can come out of the black jelly and grab her leg. It makes no damn sense. She's like obsessed. This teenage daughter is also shown to be obsessed with this Irish ghost hunter character on the TV. She's like a fanboy of his or something. It's very strange because when he shows up later in the film, he's called in by these paranormal researchers, this ghost hunter character from TV. She's like all in love with him and afraid to speak to him because she's in awe of him, in awe of his character. And wow, it's so fucked up compared to the original. Let's read another one. 2.5 big stars. I never saw the original. So far, I am intrigued and believe a remake is a new movie. Funny in parts, so keep an open mind. Yeah, it's funny unintentionally in parts, except for the end credits. I have not finished watching it, and it's worth checking out. I think one of the main reasons to why the negativity is most have seen the original. I will go back, but wanted to see the remake first. So this reviewer saying he's like not all the way done with this and he feels like going and watching the original. Well, I'll bet he never returned to this one because don't make excuses for how you need to like not finish this. Just don't finish it. Don't put yourself through this. I can easily understand why you'd want to shut this off before you finished it. Do yourself a favor and just shut it off now while you still can. I'm sure he did. 1.5 stars, May 16, 2019. Over 30 years later, I expected a much better version of the film. Sadly, it wasn't a patch on the original in any way. Acting, production, special effects were all very poor. Why must a new version of a film if you are not going to make it better, substantially better at that? Yeah, and why would Spielberg want his name on this? I mean, it's like an embarrassment to his own writing credits. I don't understand. 1 star, May 4, 2019. This remake, like most remakes, was not very good. I was quite bored watching this movie, and even though it had its moments, the scares were okay. Very disappointing trying to live up to the amazing original. Yeah, that's an understatement. 2 stars. Okay, I'll start off by saying this movie was nowhere as bad as people made it out to be. Really? The acting was fine, the FX were decent, and the story was pretty close to the original. That being said, this movie was mostly average with no serious scare or even wow factor. I think the main failing was not only copying the story but also copying the direction and style. This is not a Spielberg film, yet there were scenes completely stolen from his playbook. It kind of is a Steven Spielberg film because he's credited as the writer on this. One of the writers. No, I completely disagree. This was not fine. The acting was not fine. The effects just brought the movie down. They weren't necessary. We didn't need them in the first film. We didn't need to see all the bullshit on the other side of whatever, the portal in this film. It just worked to the detriment of the film. And on my list, yeah, the dad at the sink. Yeah, that's when I laughed out loud. There was a scene in which the dad goes to the sink and he sees his reflection in the faucet, chrome on the faucet, and he drank something, I don't recall what it was, like coffee, and then he goes and starts puking out black-colored blood into the sink and sees his gruesome reflection on the chrome on the faucet, and then snaps back to normal when his wife comes up behind him, and it's trying to do a scene, a couple of different scenes from the first Poltergeist, and it fails in every way, and it's really stupid, and there's some CGI involved there. And the dad's already such an unlikable character that I laughed out loud because I wanted to see him puke out his guts and just die right there. I mean, I hated his character so much, and I actually got a really good, loud laugh out of that scene that was supposed to be scary, and that's telling you how bad this really is. And that's about it on my list because I've said everything that needs to be said here, and other reviewers have. 22% on the audience score. It completely deserves that. Just go watch the original. There's nothing to see here. It's actually an embarrassment to, Steven Spielberg to have his name on this. I don't know how that happened. I really don't. Sam Rockwell, wow, he's better in a lot weirder things that I've seen him do. He's much better and he's likable. In this, I just wanted to see him die, but in the movie, This movie ends like the first one, and it ends where they just drive away from the neighborhood and they go on and move into another house, or they're trying to, and that's how it ends. And you're left wondering just why you watched this ridiculous, rotten thing. And I don't know what the point of it was. There was no message, no purpose. It was just a whole rotten pile of nonsense. And I will see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.